The portal. Through a gateway by sentinels, guards, I walk through a garrison's yard. Inside the lodge, dark and damp, I hold up the watchman's lamp. Down on knees, tenderly light the frozen fires of our dark night. In the shadows, I reclaim the world I knew and now rename home. My car is large. People know it in this town. It occurs to me to worry a bit about appearances as I pull into the town's most popular donut shop. But I plow ahead in order to observe. I open the door to be greeted by the aroma of rich-smelling coffee and sweet maple syrup, and I am lifted swiftly back to mornings at summer camp or Saturdays at home with the family eating pancakes and French toast. This close association to pleasant things is a wicked and two-edged sword. I sit here in sort of a memoriam for a habit I crucified long ago, the one that tried to kill me with its kindness. As I fed myself false kisses from sweet glaze and creamy chocolate, from donuts. Still, I forge ahead on this mission, and I find myself a seat with decaf in hand. I am so charmed by blue ruffled curtains that frame the streets outside that are lined with trees so puffy and green they cast a hue on all things caught in their shadow. There is so much noise as this little shop is hopping. A woman directly across the way is staring at me. She is weathered and heavy, with big false teeth and a big false grin. To her, I am a curiosity, a newcomer. I assume this place attracts a lot of regulars. This proves itself true to me as I eavesdrop on the large and boisterous group of elderly people that sit behind me, saying, "Hey, where is everybody anyway?" As I watch the steady stream of customers trail in and out, I notice that most are heavy. The ones who are brave will stay and read the paper alone. Most will get their sales over quickly as possible, either from hurry or self-consciousness, I surmise. I notice that there is a rare sale of just one donut. I suspect that no one can eat just one. A large group of kids carrying book bags come in for a last-minute meal before school. Two young kids looking like brother and sister sit in silence, and I wonder if Mom and Dad sent them off with a $5 bill. The contrast of the very young and the very old seems to imply to me the same feeling that I have known of pleasant associations of days gone by. And donuts. Is that why the old folks hang here? Do they long for their youth? The young are in school now, and the faces and bodies in line morph to middle-aged people. One lady I recognize that works at the local lounge. I know she has an eating disorder, so I become super sleuth to satisfy my curiosity about the number of donuts that she buys. It was roughly a half dozen. I wonder, will she share or will she purge? The place is quieting down now, quieter still, because the deaf people in the corner make no noise as they speak to one another with waves of the hand and shaping of fingers. I grin serenely as I enjoy the love passing between those two. I pick up my books and walk over to the cashier to throw down my last 10 cents for the refill. As I leave, I carry with me the vision of two old people enjoying their life and moments in the donut shop, eating and sharing. I picture myself at the end of my youth approaching the door of that same donut shop, but before I go in, I will lay down my cross and I will walk in unburdened, free at last. Then I will eat donuts. From Montana she came, a foreigner to the heat and water of California, child of snow with warm fingers and warm toes, breaking down the ice, down the barriers that stood between child and grandmother as we looked awkwardly at each other, asking, "Who are you?" Breaking up the stale soil of things done as always, stirring up my safe existence of no chaos. A foreigner to me, she danced and played like a thief, breaking into my fears, stealing for herself a place to stay. And she stayed, for a time, a sweet and salty, summery time. Now, sunflowers dance on her bonnet as she dances away from me. Happily she taps her toes on stepping stones that lead her home, aware that she steals a piece of it for her very own as she goes. That's my granddaughter Elizabeth. She was from Montana at the time. About a friend. He wrestles with fear and dances with darkness, his head full of futile pleas to take away the night that fell in permanent disease. Beautiful his failing frame, breathtaking his heart. Wicked fate would steal his strength and tear his world apart. He wants to rest his weary mind and lay each burden down. But who can take the weight of it and share his thorny crown? He steals across the quiet room and picks up his guitar. He wants to sing with all his might, but can't get very far. His voice trails off in sad despair. How can he sing at all? His dreams on hold, his thoughts untold. He cannot heed the call. Taking on the fight once more, he wrestles in the night to keep his faith and hope alive until he sees the light. The light that surely has to come, one that wants to stay, because he is told with every night there has to come a day. He's waiting for that day. When all that was hope is darkness, and all that was dreamt is asleep, and I stand on the balcony looking out, looking back at minutes, years, wasted peering into mirrors of measure, stepping on scales of value and worth, looking into eyes before mine for significance, never aware the doubts and fears that dance madly beneath their closed eyelids. Terrified to see the reflection in mine, equally lost in barren lands of rage and self-disgust, writhing in slick muds of narcissism. Then will I look further over the edge into the abyss of desperation that is held back by little more than the wood railing pressed in against my side. And there, in the dark of my failure, will be that warm, forgiving breeze, rising up from the valley to cup my face and brush back my hair tenderly, like the weathered and gentle hands of Jesus. I saw your face before me. Whisper soft it came, but swift and unbidden like the wind. Then your presence surrounded me and I remembered you. All senses were active, but thought was not clear. Shocked with the sweetness, with no will of my own, I looked back for a moment, and then I cried. So many goodbyes, so many goodbyes. But this I accept with grace as I turn to finish my chores. You've cried for rescue by a nameless face, for purest love and saving grace. Take me as I am, plea bravely stated. Never mind source, passion's overrated. No, I know, I've heard you say you could feel love, but not today. Your heart is bruised, you can't be sure that any emotion would be pure. You need an angel, a nurse to care, to give up all her rights to share in fool's romantic paradise, but take upon her sacrifice to see beyond the obvious and value more the bond of trust. But love, I have to tell you true, it hardly matters what you do or say to make it perfectly clear that you would really want me here. My heart is caught, I will not dare to strike a pose to make you care more than you are able to. I love you, sweetheart. I'll stay with you. One day, as I sat upon the shore, I watched a man and woman wrangling away. Said the man to the woman in his spiffy little boat, "Leave them there, I like it that way." They struggled over oil rags that stopped up all the leaks that kept his little dinghy afloat. Said she, "I did not know they meant so much. Why don't you fix the boat?" I stifled laughter to hear more and watched for his response. I had wondered too. What meant those rags so safely guarded that caused the fight between the two? He slowly spoke with sad expression, pain behind each word. "Well, this one rag is for Lucy. I loved her very much. She slipped and fell and caused a leak that I remember well. This one here is for Karen, another girl I knew. She caused a leak that was so big I cannot begin to tell. That rag over there, now that one's pretty new. Janet's her name who caused that leak. So here's the thing I do. I keep these leaks and stop them up in memory of them. I won't remove them lest I sink. I must remember when. If they are gone, what will I have to hold on to the past? The cross I wear is to keep them there so my love for them will last." The woman said to he, "I think I understand. But these are all a sadness that rags cannot make right. You sell your present for the past on a hope that they just might. My love, I fear I do intrude upon your love affair, with ghosts of failure in your past, and I cannot compare. Please turn this little boat around, I wish to go to shore. Your boat is full of oil rags, you don't need any more. Well, that was that, and so I took my leave right then and there. I feared to look upon his face shadowed with despair, but I would learn a thing or two by watching them that day, by watching the couple in the boat who sat and wrangled away. The Ghost of Mother. I stood on the front porch one day and started calling kitty, 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 kitty. The word flew from my mouth in such high-pitched, quick succession that it sounded more like an Indian woman's mournful keening than a housewife calling her cat. My kitty came tearing across the lawn in anticipation of either love or food or both. My husband looked at me so strangely as I picked up the cat. Then he asked, "How do you do that?" "You mean the way I call the kitty?" I said. "Yeah, I can't do that," he said as he gave it a try. He came out sounding like a 14-year-old's puberty voice, breaking and changing pitch. I figured it was sort of a unique talent after all. I felt proud as I recalled where this talent came from. My mother was also endowed with this talent among so many others. How often had I heard her call this way from the front yard or front patio of our house for the many cats in our childhood. Standing there, I felt I could be her, a shadow, a variating replica. The thought of it was spooky, but I liked the idea that my mother does live on, even after she leaves us someday. I will carry on, thus will my mother. I just wrote an email to a woman friend of mine. Shocking what comes out of my head into my fingertips. I regaled her with a sarcastic story of my life as it is right now and did not realize how incredibly burdened I was. What keeps us human beings in so much denial of how difficult life is? Were we taught that it's best if we don't complain? Did that teaching push us into the only solution to the pain, to pretend it does not exist? Unloading feels good. I think it's akin to confession. I should feel guilty for the bashing, but I do not. I feel lighter. I feel justified. How silly to ask myself why I woke up feeling bad. Duh. My life is hard right now. No doubt it could easily get harder, and the tools for overcoming unchanged. Here is the but of it. But I want to relate to another human being. But I think it's okay for someone to say, "Damn, I'm glad I'm not you right now." Or maybe they would say, "That really sucks, Becky, you must be hurting." Yeah, I'd cry. But few are sympathetic anymore. The whole world wants to correct the problem and correct you for a bad attitude and pretend that life is not hard. Did the fellow inmates with Corrie ten Boom in the concentration camp tell her, "Girl, you gotta look up at the bright side. At least you're not dead"? No doubt they wept together and prayed hard. Their joy was a result of endurance and acceptance of God's will. Did Job in the Old Testament laugh it off when his children were taken from him? Ah, well, let's look at the bright side and be glad I'm still alive. Or worse yet, try to find a way to pin the bad times on his own bad behavior. His friends kept trying to find ways to alleviate the uncomfortable truth that sometimes life sucks. That would make it easier for them. Whereas I hate self-pity, it is a fine line between that and there being a time to wear sackcloth and throw ashes on your head because you need to mourn. So, let her cry. Oh, frightening vulnerability. Admission of thyself. Confess it, whatever the cost. Pride be damned and left behind, or trust be ever lost. Oh, let there be a sacred place where each of you can hide in soul-to-soul embrace. No pose or posture be allowed, but say it face to face. For in your hands unthinking lay fragile hearts unknown, where mysteries abide. Take care now you try to find the secrets that they hide. Oh, but look for those, they that matter most, those mysteries untold. Understand their value as they trustingly unfold. Do not look to satisfy fear's unquenchable thirst, insecurity's lust. Too much weight on love's intent can cancel out its trust. Understand a lover's cross of sacrifice unknown, challenge to autonomy. Keep boundaries strong while yet you strive for perfect harmony. Bravely take the challenge, standing there as you do with quivering vulnerability, to do as God would ask you to. Love him or her unconditionally. Sometimes I'm a jerk. Shouldn't that be okay with me? I mean, who am I kidding anyway? Do I think I have everyone fooled? If I stew too long in my self-hatred, depression, and non-acceptance of the grace that belongs to me, do I not throw God's gift back in his space? I am not expected to be perfect. Why do I expect it of myself? Why should I be so bummed if people find out who I really am? Oh, pride. I did not know I had so much. An old friend gave me a bumper sticker for my car that I displayed proudly, saying, "It is better to be hated for who you are than to be loved for who you are not." There goes that honesty and being real subject again. Being real and honest means people will find out my ugly side too. That is the hardest part. Sometimes I am ugly and I don't want to know it. In God's outstretched hand there is a jar of salve freely given for the wounds I have caused by being a jerk. The wound of the other and the wound in my pride. I need to let this salve heal me and bring me to the knowledge of humility. How would we ever know God's grace if we never knew failure? Strange, this picture of achievement I have. I see myself at a perfect weight, living in a nice home with perfect privacy and a well-run store with no debt, and then what? I will look perfect? Life will be perfect? I want to live in this moment and not be driven. I see it so frequently, and not just in myself. I see us living frantically in the moment just to get to the next one that might be better. Ah, well, I jump around in my thoughts now. My only goal here is to convince myself to lay hold of the grace and the forgiveness that is mine today, and be free of the guilt and shame that plagues me, because it plagues me. How's that for honesty? About a train. Staring out my window, sun rising, chilly fingers grasp warm coffee mug. Then comes a friend. A whistle blows, an engine roars, crossing bells ring its warning, colors splash into view. I count the cars, wonder what's inside, take a ride in my head to imagined destinations, and marvel at what men have made. This thunderous thing, once gone, leaves silence, and I say, there goes a friend. I search for words to say goodbye to the land that touched my heart. I have to go, but of myself I know I leave a part. The visions and the memories will be with me forever, the ties that bind me to the land impossible to sever. Could I forget the summer day the osprey drove to water? The catch was heavy in her beak and would make her weave and totter. But splendid creature that she was would not give up her power. Arching her wings, she dragged to shore her catch along the water. And what about the aspen tree that line the creek and river? The sound they make when breezes blow, the leaves that dance and quiver. Oh, little yellow heart-shaped leaves, you'd cast your glow upon me, as autumn winds would free your leaves to flutter round about me. I will recall without a doubt the stoking of the fires, the cold and lonely winter nights, the chaining of the tires. Oh, winter harsh, you wore me down, relentless snow and cold. I do admit you caused me tears, and the sorrow was foretold. But winter had its charm and grace. I'll often reminisce of big white flakes come gently down to give my lips a kiss. Of times I stood and looked upon a world in blanket white, unearthly silence, breath and air, enraptured by the sight. How do I say goodbye to the land that soon became my friend? I'll never say goodbye, my love, for I'll be back again. Montana. I lived there 10 years. I heard it in a meeting. There once was a man and his boy that lived in a village in Somewheresville. This man had a fine horse that one day ran away. The news spread in the village and many commented, "Oh, how awful this is, he must be devastated." The man calmly said, "I do not know if this is good or bad, but I know that it just is." A week later, the horse came back, and the reason for its leaving became apparent upon the arrival of 7 mares that came following after her. The villagers cried, "Wow, what good fortune! This is a very good thing." The man calmly said, "I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but I know that it just is." One day the man's son was riding one of the mares, and the horse reared, and off tumbled the son, who sustained long-lasting serious injuries to his foot and ankle. Again the villagers expressed their opinion. "This is awful for you. You must feel very discouraged." The man said, in his usual response, "I don't know if this is a bad thing or a good thing, but I just know that it is." Weeks later, war broke out in their country, and all young men were called except this man's son. Oh, well, we know what the villager said, and we know what the man said. I wonder who had more peace. The moral of the story: we are not to judge the circumstances or events of our lives, but calmly trust that what is for a reason. I sat down in the patio chair of our sweet little backyard, looking out at setting sun rays that spread out across the lawn. An enchanting breeze lifted tendrils of hair off my face that was, at the moment, covered in tears. An exhausting day at work had me thinking overtime and probably a bit too analytically for the circumstances. Nevertheless, I forged ahead, feeling sure I could unravel the mystery of my heavy heart. Newly married, moved across the United States to a foreign state, new job, left behind family and friends. Hardly seems a mystery. And so it really isn't. The mystery was in the question of how to bring an end to that discomfort. For me, it's usually a good cry and a confession, and poof, all better. Feeling it through, as it were. But how to ease the loneliness of withdrawal from the familiar and the secure? Easy to visualize myself among family playing cards or games. Easy to see myself sitting on the edge of the bed chatting endlessly with my sister. Idealistic images that readily come to the forefront of memory. I entertained those images for only a short while and soon traded them in for reality by way of thinking it through. Where would I be if I could trade locations right this very minute? And what would I be doing? In my mind, I went to my parents' house. Yes, I loved being there with them, but the visit had an end. It wasn't my home. In my mind, I went to each of my children's home in turn and found the very same thing. Of course, I visited for a very brief moment my ex-husband's house, my old house, but all things had changed impossibly, and I grew agitated. The truest test, oddly, was going back to California and looking my sister in the eyes and realizing that she would soon find another life quite separate from me, with a man. No matter where I looked for security, could only be found in the past and of an existence that was no more. I even, in my mind, visited my deceased father. He wasn't accessible. I visited my children when they were small, and as I reached out to touch them, they disappeared. As I imagined every scenario of happiness, felt and familiar, I realized that they were no longer to be had. Ever. Life does not let you go down the exact same trail twice. Parents die, children grow up, marriages fail. These things do not get returned to us. The greatest joy and hope I had was right here in this chair on the patio, looking out at the setting sun rays that spread out across the lawn, with enchanting breezes that lifted tendrils of hair away from my face. The greatest hope for joy was in the here and now. As I concluded in these thoughts, almost simultaneously, my pride and joy, my husband, my friend, my lover, jumped out in front of me with the motions of a presentation at a show. "Ta-da!" he said, or something like it. Little did he know how very fitting that little display was to the thoughts I had at the moment. Enter your life, your new season, your new joy. You are home. Now. And then my heart squeezed with delight.